Good morning, everybody. As the last guy, I got to make up for the time, so I'm on for 15 minutes. Thanks, everybody. It's great being on the panel with you guys. I know your work, influencing our history as we speak. Kiuttanog tehe nostin maskego ginanog egonishin hasiakante Abraham Namosho Edmund Notai Ashiganeski Bechabatasan Bombenhetason Jigistano Egotan de Jabatasian Anost Gitchamin de Magaya Bechanamotamaha Shunyan Dehe Taniru Chagategnigan Dehe Ashtiganesh Ashia Kitapena Mogonan, Kichogoma, Egonagashana Okenish, Egomagano Shagat at Tonan Mochagatek, Chikiachistano, Ashamaga, Tatanehendenan, Asatatakashkogan, Shagosten Jagatet Tabus, Cabbage, Chiganobachagatek, Messigon, Chiki Wichahit. Migoswani Toga, in an Ogotagas Chichik, Chipwas at the times. Of New Credit, Miigwech, Chigipejita Hota, and the Institute for Governance, So my name is Shannin Metatawabin. I'm from Fort Albany, Ontario, in Northern Ontario, just downriver from Mr. Achbanishkam here. I think he went to school with my dad, Edmund Metatawabin. Metatawabin family is my family from up north. I think Over knows my dad. Some people probably read my dad's book, Up Ghost River. He talks, finally opened up about his experience at residential school, and it's helping people sort of understand. And I think that's the big message that we got to talk about is the understanding. We have a huge history here in Canada of our Indigenous people. We had economies. Our economies in the past were rich. We were rich. We had trading systems. All our people never thought that they were in poverty. It was when first contact and all the policies of genocide were put on our people. I think we lost 95% of our population at first contact. So you can just imagine the number of communities that were all in the spots where all the cities are right now. Those are prime locations. And now a lot of our people are placed in regions of the Canada where it's hard to start an economy. But we're going to do our best. I know we're going to get there. And it all comes down to the understanding of being patient. The centuries of policies that were instituted to get rid of the Indian problem still exist today. We still haven't got rid of it. So until we actually get rid of those policies that are trying to get rid of us and start to acknowledge that we're here and we're not going anywhere, we're very resilient. That's the only time that we're going to really achieve this reconciliation that everybody talks about. I like Wilton Littlechild, who talked about reconciliation. Now is the time for action. Enough talk. It's really we've got a lot of government folks in here. Our people have been under paternalistic policies for many, many years. And unfortunately, in our communities, that's sort of been absorbed, and that's the reality, that's the culture within the community. In our community, Kishunya Nogomao is still referred to as the big boss in Ottawa. That's the person that provides the money. That's the fiscal reality right now. And it continues right now. We're all still operating under a standard approach. Government sets the agenda, sets the targets and the goals, and the language and the questions is still targets and the goals. We're trying to achieve something, but really, it's going to take a little bit of time. And as Ernie said and Dave said, certain communities are different and at different points of development. Some are closer to urban centers, then they're able to see an economy start to happen, start to be involved in developmental programs. In their isolated communities, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. So patience is something that I wanted to talk about. We need to change the story and approach. I was looking at the questions, and it's all about the fiscal changing the fiscal approach. We really need the Canadian population to understand a little bit about our story. I talk about the resilience. I'm the CEO for the National Aboriginal Capital Corporations Association, as was Dan previously. And this is the one good story that I wanted to talk about. The Capital Corporation Association has turned $240 million in government spend into $2.3 billion in lending. 42,000 loans have been provided to the community. Now, this is in developmental lending, which is really the kind of lending that mainstream lenders don't want to even get into, and it needs to be subsidized because it is difficult lending to do. The Business Development Bank of Canada started in 1944, right after the World War was over. They were getting prepared to really invigorate the Canadian economy, and so they started a developmental lending corporation. Now it's grown to a nice size, but our National Capital Corporation is essentially the same loan portfolio that the BDC was in the 70s, early 70s. So we're on a trajectory of growth, and if you look at our population, it speaks for itself. It's still growing. There's going to be 1 million Aboriginal youth probably by 2025, so we got to prepare for that. We got to make these changes now. We got to prepare for own source revenue in our communities. But there's a huge capacity requirement in our communities, in leadership and community members, in the institutions that we have. I'm part of an institution, a national institution. It's got an important role, as does the Ernie's institution, as does the Institute of Governance, all the institutions that are required, that are needed to ensure that we have self-governance. Those are some of the first steps that you can support right now, and support the institutions that are supporting their communities, because that's the input right there. And then don't reduce funding on education, because that's the capital, that's the social capital of the future. And right now we're having members in the community turned down for funding. That's wrong. That's unjust. We got to support anybody that wants to go to school. That's the most important thing that there is. I was sent to school. I was told, go get an education and bring something back to the community, and I'm doing that, as is everybody else. But there's other students, there's other potential students sitting out there saying, there's no more money, there's no more fiscal, there's no fiscal reality for you. We've operated on scarcity of resources all the time. This is the standard approach. This is what we want to achieve this year. Submit your proposals. We'll transfer the money to you. You can hire whoever you have available right now. Oh, they left. Okay, you're going to have to find somebody else. There's no stability in that. There's no growth. The whole Indian Act that provides 2-year term for an elected official was done on purpose, just to ensure that there's no stability in the community. You have to have the nation-building approach of long-term growth. Let the community decide. Provide block funding to ensure that there's stability, so you can get a loan from the institutions that are available to give you a long-term capital, because the name of the day is capital. Our National Aboriginal Capital Corporations right now is probably going through, I don't know how many business plans it's done to demonstrate the need, but they were started with $240 million, and 3 in 85, and in 96 there was 22, and they were going to start being managed by the BDC, but they unified, and they said, you know what, we're going to start our own association, and we're going to start doing it ourselves. And that's what they did. So we're celebrating 20 years this year, the National Aboriginal Capital Corporation Association, representing the Aboriginal financial institutions throughout Canada. Now, these financial institutions, they're in every part of Canada. They've developed deep social relationships with the communities that are within their communities. So there's a sense of a cooperative business right there. The community members feel owners of that entity. So there's a repayment rate of 96% on all lending. It's unprecedented. The government set this program up with a plan to capitalize it for a certain number of years, and that never materialized fully for a lot of them. So a lot of them, their capital is not there anymore, so they've stopped developmental lending. So there's no activity going on for some of them. They haven't received any capital top-ups for more than 10 years. It's always been on a, do we have any extra money? Okay, throw it at the capital network. It is a good system because they're going to get it out there. They're going to create an economic boost. But they've never seriously considered economic development as one of those important areas. Indian Affairs has only provided 2% discretionary funding for the last 30 years. I started my career as a business development officer providing loans right to community members. Did it in Toronto with business plans being thrown at me, and then went out to the community and counseled people for over 5 years until they were ready to submit their business plan. You had to create entrepreneurs. But there's a lot of barriers there. They're dealing with the residential school, traumas. So they're in survival mode on a daily basis, never mind thinking about their future. So that's the state, that's the current state of our communities right now, is survival, and it still exists right now. Until we open up this conversation about nation building and show some of the good practices some of the other nations are doing in their growth, that's taken decades actually, then they can start to see themselves being part of that growth. I work with De Beers Canada, which is a mining company, for 6 years up in northern Ontario. So they have the Victor mine up there, some of the nicest diamonds in the world, and this is what Dave was talking about. I actually hired his daughter, got her out of the north. Because you know what, that's the future of the north. There's $350 billion in mining opportunities in the north, so that's a big economic driver and something that we have to take advantage of. The IBA payments, that's nothing. It's the business opportunities. It's the $500 million in mine life business opportunities that you're going to be sustainable on. And it's not going to be just that business, that mine, it's going to be the next mine. It's really got to be set up to be successful. There are opportunities out there, but it takes a will and a way to understand the circumstance. Don't have unrealistic expectations, because reconciliation, it takes time, but it takes action right now to set up the policies, the legislation, provide the capital, provide the capacity programs, so that the people are ready for when they start to take on more of their own fiscal realities. We've got to close the gap. They say it's $27.7 billion. The National Aboriginal Economic Development Board just recently did a study, and they say $27.7 billion. That's what we're missing out on, because the Indigenous community doesn't have the same level, standard of living as everybody else, same level of education, same level of infrastructure, economic development opportunities. I think it's more like $100 billion. We close that gap, and we're going to do our part with developmental lending. Then we could see some real benefits for Canada in the long term. So our National Aboriginal Capital Corporation right now is on a campaign to obtain additional capital for their network, and they're also on a campaign in the near future to develop a fund, and I'm sure Ernie will help us out, and identifying a long-term sustainable capital base so that our network that are all across Canada can access larger loans. They can get out, not only do small and medium-sized enterprises, but also do the larger business opportunities, the mining opportunities, the development opportunities. Like, once you create that base of experience and capacity, which all these capital corporations have, these Aboriginal financial institutions have 30 years of delivering lending, dealing with the politics, the relationships. They're really good at their work. And they have the opportunity right now to expand their services, diversify what they do, and get into the whole base of social finance that they're talking about. I call it the largest social finance network in the world, because that's what they're doing. Every loan that they provide is increasing the quality of life of that community. So yeah, they are doing it, and they're doing it in small, medium enterprises. So let's say block funding. Let's all close the gap together. Thank you very much.